Good morning. Welcome to Unity of Pasadena. We'll begin our service as we do each week with the sound of the toning bowl that brings us together in consciousness. Some words from Psalm 66. Sing a joyful sound to the beloved, all the earth, and praise love's name. Sing in glorious exultation. You are our teacher for all ages. We who choose to listen and learn sing songs of gratitude and joy. Bless the beloved heart of our hearts. Let the sound of our praises be heard. You keep us attuned to life and guide our feet on solid ground. Blessed be the name of the beloved, loving companion presence, who embraced me and renewed my life. And we take these words in this morning as we gather together in spiritual community, knowing that we are not separated in space or time, that we are one in the heart and mind of God, that this gathering is as sacred in this moment as it is when we gather in person. We give thanks for the blessings of our lives, for the ways that we can see the presence of God and sing songs of joy, of exultation, affirming what we know to be true, that we are loved. And for this awareness, we say, thank you, God, and so it is. Amen. For those of you who care to, and we'll put it in the chat stream for you, join me in our opening statement of faith. There is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God, the good omnipotence. And I am one with that presence and power. Powerful words to live by, and they are true words. It is a true statement of affirmative prayer. We are so grateful that you decided to join us here this morning. I know that especially in this virtual environment, you could truly be at any other ministry that is streaming online as we are. So I thank you so much for deciding to join us and be with us here today. And certainly to all of our regular congregants, it's great to have you here. Unity honors the many paths that lead to the one God. And we know that that expression is sent out across all the world in a variety of ways, us being simply one of them. So thank you for being here. In our music ministry, because we still include music just like we do every week if we are live, we're going to have selections from Michael Gott, Karen Drucker, Janice Stanfield, and Daniel Nahmod. We've been using the song God and Me by Michael Gott as our congregation tune. We'll be putting the words in the chat stream for you, so those of you who don't know it have something to be able to guide you to sing along with us, because we are all part of the music ministry. So please enjoy God in Me.
God of glory, God of power, God of goodness, God of grace, God of wisdom, God of love, God of life transcending time and space.
And if you haven't already, Say hello to one another.
God of
Greet
wisdom,
each other. Acknowledge the Christ.
God of life, transcending time and space. God in me. God in me. God of glory. God of power. God of goodness, God of grace, God of wisdom, God of love, God of life, transcending time and space. God in me, God in me. God of glory, God of power,
God of power.
God of goodness,
God of goodness.
grace,
God of grace.
God of wisdom,
God of wisdom.
God of love,
God of love.
God of life, transcending time and space. God in me,
God in me.
God in me, God
God in me.
God in me.
God in me. Wow, another statement of affirmative truth. And while we're on affirmative truth, Unity of Pasadena is a vibrant, thriving community. We have a vision here. United in spirit, we are a beacon of light and love that catalyzes a global we-evolution. So we know that it is not just about the individual, that it is about the collective consciousness. It is about the we of us that brings about the change we want to see. We have a mission, and this is how we express our vision through our mission. And I invite you to say it along. We've put both in the chat stream there for you. Creating community, living love, teaching truth, serving spirit. These are what guide us as a community and are how we express in the world. And speaking of expressing in the world, those of you who have been with us the past several weeks, you probably noticed that today we ran the song all the way through to the end. I'd be curious your feedback about that, because I don't know how it is for you. And, if you folks like it, let us know. Maybe do a thumbs up there. And we will continue evolving into how we present the service. There are a couple of things that I wanted to mention specifically. Next Sunday, May 10th, is Mother's Day. I would love to be able to incorporate some of your mom-isms. Maybe you have a short story that you always share in your family about your mom, or something that your mom always used to do, or that your mom would always say. If you would like to share that with me and let me incorporate it into the service next week, please email them to minister@unityofpasadena.org. Again, that's minister@unityofpasadena.org. I do need to receive them from you, though, please, by Wednesday next week, which I believe is the 6th of May. So if you would like to be included verbally through the service, please send me your mom-isms. And, we'll probably invite you to put some things in the chat box as well. So know that's coming. Also would like to mention that our connections team has been working really beautifully together to create other ways for you to connect with us virtually. We have on Wednesdays, the Wednesday Wisdom, which is a video that goes up usually around noon and very short. Please share it with your friends. Our Book Nook manager, Sandy Branshaw, recently did a book review on an Eric Butterworth selection. That's also on our Facebook page. You can find it there. So same thing. Please go ahead and share it with your friends. And you may have not had the opportunity generally to attend the Thursday noon meditation. However, we've got that recorded. It is also on our Facebook page. That's a half hour of guided meditation. A beautiful time to be able to sit and listen and give yourself that gift. So these are some of the ways that we are able to connect with you through the week. So know that those are available. And you know what? Like I say, share, so that your friends become more aware of who we are, because we do have a powerful message to share. And we're going to be talking more about that in just a little bit. But the other way that we bring our unity teachings to bear in our lives is the deep practice of meditation. It is, and was the cornerstone for the Fillmores. Charles Fillmore used to speak about going into the silence with the capital S for the silence. And it's a practice in virtually every unity service that I'm aware of where there's a time of meditation. That includes us right here, right now, in this moment. We prepare ourselves for this time of meditation through the reading of the daily word. And so I invite you to take a nice deep breath, become comfortable wherever it is that you are, as we look at today's daily word, world peace. I contribute to peace in the world. When I learn of conflict in my community or in the world, my response may be frustration, sadness, or anger. If I have those feelings, I remember that I am more than merely human. I am a living expression of God, heir to all that God is. I use my divine faculties of wisdom, understanding, and love to create the abiding peace that is my birthright. Centered in divine peace, I realize that every person is as much an expression of God as I am. As differences dissolve in a way that transcends human understanding, I come to know oneness with all the world's people. I let this realization shape my response to every person and every situation. In an awareness of my oneness with all people, my thoughts, words, and actions contribute to peace in the world. The scripture comes from John 17, verse 22. The glory you have given me, I have given them, so that they may be one as we are one. And again, the word for today is world peace. I contribute to peace in the world. The meditation song we've been using this month is Blessing to the World by Karen Drucker. We'll put the words in the chat box for you if you care to sing along.
You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are
In the New Testament, we're reminded of our life's priorities. Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. With elegant simplicity and clarity, we are called to what is really important in life, what is valuable, what endures. Sacred, holy beings living a divine life. Over the last 6 weeks, life has really been distilled for us. In some ways, it's been a symbolic tomb experience. Things as we have known them have changed dramatically. I think we need to be conscious of that in ourselves and acknowledge it. Because as restrictions on our movements eventually ease, we can choose to live our lives more consciously. As the resurrected Christ beings we truly can be, as the fuller expressions of our own inherent divinity. We hold these daily intentions to our heart now and move into the silence with them. We breathe deeply, peacefully, and slowly into the silence for 2 minutes. We slowly open our eyes and close this period of meditation, feeling both relaxed, refreshed, and renewed. This is a new month. In May, we're encouraged and empowered in the joy that blossoms. We're mindful of the incomprehensible beauty of life and its magnificence, and we savor it. We live our lives as God expressing, instruments of God's grace to all whose lives we touch.
to sing how much I've been blessed with people to love, some peace of mind and happiness. It makes me want to pass along this love I've received as a way of giving thanks for what's been given to me. I've got a strong heart. I've got a strong love. And I'm ready to use the gift I've been given to make this world a better place to live in. Ready to use the gift I've been given to make this world a better place to live in. I used to have a lust for more that bordered on greed, till I looked around and saw that I have more than I need. I thought I had to have it all before I could share, till I realized what's mine to give has always been there. I've got a strong heart. I've got a strong love. And I'm ready to use the gift I've been given to make this world a better place to live in. Ready to use the gift I've been given to make this world a better place to live in. I may not make a difference that the whole world can see, but if I can show more kindness, that's what matters to me. I'm changing on the outside, finding gray in my hair, but the difference on the inside is that I don't care. I'm losing my desire to be what I'm not, and I've got what I want now that I want what I've got. I've got a strong heart. I've got a strong love. And I'm ready to use the gift I've been given to make this world a better place to live in. Ready to use the gift I've been given to make this world a better place to live in. Ready to use the gift I've been given to make this world a better place to live in. Ready to
Use the talents you possess.
Oh my God, ready to use the gifts I've been given to make this place, this world, better for living. That by Jenna Stanfield. Okay, I gotta tell you all, it wouldn't be me if I didn't do this. As soon as I heard that lyric, I was like, oh God, I gotta do a little truth telling here. She says in the song that I'm changing on the outside by the gray in my hair. Okay, so I am intentionally trying to keep my head upright and not tilted down because I got caught behind the 8 ball with the hairdresser in all of this COVID and shutdown, and has not had a touch of the highlights and things I normally do since January. She said the difference is that for her it doesn't bother her on the inside. I'm not there yet. I'm trying, but I'm not there yet. Okay. All right. Just some truth telling there. And I'm sure there are some of you who can relate. Oh my God. Okay. If you've been with me for any length of time, you know I have a motto. It is really part of what I live by. I really do. I live by this. Who I am and what I do matters. So let's do it consciously. Let's do it consciously. Who I am and what I do matters. Now, normally when I put it out there, I say, who you are and what you do matters. So let's do it consciously. But turning it into a first-person statement, who I am and what I do matters. So I'm going to take a moment and have you say that with me. Just who I am and what I do matters. It's the whole point of the music that we've been listening to so far. We've been through the month of April and including today, the first Sunday of May, we've used God in Me, Blessing to the World, and then the song by Janice Stanfield about I'm ready to use the gifts that I have to make the world a better place. These songs, and we change out the special music, of course, each week, but these songs have been supporting the series we've been in for the last several weeks, today being the culmination of it in our series on prayer, power, prosperity. In that order: prayer, power, prosperity. And the series has been this from no to know. And we began that first talk of, how do we move from N-O, divine presence in our life, to K-N-O-W, divine presence in our life. And we can always deepen the K-N-O-W part of the divine presence, so I don't want to make it sound like, you don't have it at all, but certainly we can go deeper with it. And I talked about the teachings in Unity on affirmative prayer. Because it's very powerful to pray in alignment with divine mind. And Charles Fillmore had said that the highest activity of mind that prayer is the highest activity of mind. So it is the most spiritual thing that we can do, is to be in prayer, and especially in affirmative prayer. Then last week we looked at no faith, no foreclosure. So if you K-N-O-W faith, then there's no foreclosure. And I framed it in this way of, pertaining to our shelter, like, where does your mortgage reside? In Countrywide or in Christ Mind? And so when we reside in Christ Mind, then we know faith, and that cannot be foreclosed upon. As we come into this week, and the last of this series, it's no passion, no poverty. If you K-N-O-W passion, then there is no poverty. And I am speaking poverty of spirit, because the passion that we have is about our spiritual gifts. Okay, so if we know passion, then there's no poverty. But I want to say this about poverty in the world, okay? Because there is the experience of poverty. There has, throughout millennium, been the experience of poverty of people who find themselves in situations where they don't have enough to eat, where their living conditions are deplorable or less than desirable. I want to quote something that Eric Butterworth said. He said, "Poverty as a collective condition can only be corrected by helping people one by one to stir up the gift of God within them. Poverty as a collective condition can only be corrected by helping people one by one to stir up the gift of God within them." Contemporary philosopher Ken Wilber frames it similarly, in that he says that the reason why we have poverty in the world is because as a collective we have agreed that poverty is acceptable. As a collective, we have agreed that poverty is acceptable. And when the moment comes that as a collective we decide that poverty is no longer acceptable, it will be gone like that. Just like that. Because we will be stirring up the gift of God that is within all by sharing of what we have and changing the distribution of resources. Because here's the thing, there is no lack. There is no lack of anything anywhere in the world. There is only abundance in the world. It is simply a matter of where it is being distributed. We, as human beings, as spiritual beings having a human experience, we have the capacity to make determinations about where and how we want that distribution to happen. And so this is where our spiritual gifts in part come in. Because through our spiritual gifts, which is how we know prosperity, is through our passion. We know it through our passion, then we know no poverty, we know prosperity, K-N-O-W, prosperity, so we know passion, which brings us into this prosperity, and we get it through our spiritual gifts. So don't get scared, because I'm going to go biblical on you here for a second, okay? Especially those of you who are fairly new to Unity, even though I'm going to work with this pretty straightforward from the text, just because it's so beautiful, it doesn't really need any other kind of metaphysical or mystical interpretation. Contrary to what many people might think, the Apostle Paul was actually quite a mystic if you read him through those eyes and not through the eyes of church doctrine. Just saying. Okay, just saying. But in the letter to the inhabitants of the city of Corinth, and this is what was really fascinating, is the city of Corinth at that time was the place where the Roman Empire sent the dregs of society. The most recently freed slaves, for example, recently freed criminals were sent to the city of Corinth. And what is absolutely fascinating, this is where the NO poverty comes in, no poverty, because it became one of the most prosperous cities as a trade route between East and West. So when people know their passion and they get connected to what's important to them, they make a real difference in the world. So Paul had gone and had started a community there. He writes to them because they were kind of having some issues that were jostling around, but he talks to them about gifts, because sometimes we get envious of other people's gifts. We think they have something we don't have. And, I just want to tell you that nobody can have your good and you can't have anybody else's. Okay, so it's just, it all works out the way it's supposed to. So this is what he says in 1 Corinthians chapter 12. He says, "Now concerning spiritual gifts, brothers and sisters, I do not want you to be uninformed." Okay, so here we go. I'm like Paul. I do not want you to be uninformed when you leave here today. When you get up from wherever it is that you're sitting watching the service, I do not want you to be uninformed. This is what he says. There are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit. There are varieties of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are varieties of services, but the same Lord. And there are varieties of activities, but it is the same God who activates all of them in every one. It is the same God who activates all of them in every one. Now, you may be sitting here, I just want to talk to you right now. If you're sitting here thinking you have no spiritual gift, that you were left out, let me repeat this word. Everyone. Okay? There are no exceptions to this. God activates all of them in every one. And here's the qualifier. To each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good. Okay, so to each is given the manifestation of the Spirit for the common good. So once again, we are reminded scripturally, same as we have been listening to musically, and I began with who I am and what I do matters, who you are and what you do matters. It is that the manifestation of Spirit within us is given, the gifts are given for the common good. If you think back to our vision that we are here to catalyze a global we-evolution, so we are interested in this common good. I'm going to draw together two strands today from the Christian tradition, which I've just done, reading through the writings of the Apostle Paul, and I'm also going to be pulling in from the Buddhist tradition, so put a pin in that, okay? Our spiritual gifts, you may ask yourself, okay, well, I'm sitting here and I'm not quite sure what those are. And there certainly are some traditional definitions or some traditional understandings of spiritual gifts. And I'm going to touch on that as well. But let me start here. Knowing that this is the manifestation of Spirit and that the gifts are given to everyone, it says by definition that the gifts we have are innate. They are already within us. One of the ways that we can determine or sense into a spiritual gift is simply this. What brings you joy? What brings you joy? What do you do that comes to you so naturally that you don't even think about it? It just is a part of who you are. It's a part of the way that you express. That's one indication of a spiritual gift. I know for me, one of the spiritual gifts that I have and I absolutely love, it is my passion, is I love teaching. Oh my God, it is like one of my favorite, like one of my favorite things to do. One of the ways I get to express that gift is through Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute, our education arm of the Unity movement. I teach some of the online classes for the spiritual education and enrichment, and I also teach a couple of classes for the ministerial and religious studies course. So these are people who are becoming either licensed Unity teachers, for example, or in the ministerial program who are on the path to becoming Unity ministers. It's one of the ways that I love doing it. I try to incorporate it in our time together on Sundays in some way, shape, or form to perhaps include something that maybe you didn't know that is a piece of teaching, of sharing. And what's most important to me around teaching, and part of why it's my passion, is that I'm interested in drawing out from within you what you already have. And that's another reason why I'm so excited about today's talk, because it is all about lifting up and remembering the goodness of who we are, and who does not need to remember some goodness right now. Oh my God, thank you, Andrea, for the meditation and reminding us, right, that this last 6 weeks has been really different, okay? Really, really different as a collective experience. So one of the ways that we are able to connect with our spiritual gifts is to ask ourselves, what comes to me naturally? What is it that I enjoy, that I absolutely love doing, that gets me so excited? Another way to be able to do that is there certainly are tools out there, and what I mean by tools, there are elements out there that in tests that you can take that can help identify them. So commonly known as a spiritual gifts inventory. If you would be interested in receiving a spiritual gifts inventory, please email admin@unityofpasadena.org. That's admin@unityofpasadena.org. It'll go to Andrea, who's our ministry support services person, and also you experienced her already this morning and have these past several weeks as our leading our meditation. But if you email to Andrea, we will send you a spiritual gifts inventory that you can complete for yourself. Last year, through really the passion of Nancy Smith, who is now serving as our board president, she really has a heart for connecting people and fostering a sense of community and using spiritual gifts, being aware of our spiritual gifts and connecting people with their passion in a way that certainly supports what we do here as a spiritual community. And many of you took the spiritual gifts inventory and were perhaps, as we met with you or spoke to you on the phone at the time, maybe even surprised at some of what you learned about yourself. And that's, by the way, always a good thing about the spiritual gifts, is that you will learn something about yourself or affirm something about yourself and be like amazed. It's the amazed part, okay? It's the amazed part that we're like, wow, this is how Spirit is manifesting in me. God loves me so much, that these are the gifts that I have been given to be able to express in the world. So spiritual gifts, innate, we can use tools like a spiritual gifts inventory to be able to help us identify those. And so the question becomes, okay, so we get an idea of what our spiritual gifts are. Well, then what? Okay? Because it doesn't do us any good if we just sit on them. Right? It's like that old story about, I want to win the lottery. I want to win the lottery. I want God, please let me win the lottery. And like, you got to go out and buy a lottery ticket. If you don't buy the ticket, it's just not going to happen. So, when we know what our spiritual gifts are and we start to touch on that, we need to be able to activate them. And okay, so here's where I'm going to pull that pin on the Buddhist teachings. Reverend Joan Catuso, a Unity minister who is also a practicing Buddhist, she wrote a book, The Lotus Still Blooms, one of my favorite books, Sacred Buddhist Teachings for the Western Mind. And like I said, she's a Unity minister, and one of the tenets of Buddhism is to have right livelihood. Right livelihood. Let me share a few words of what she has to say about this. Living consciously through one's life work is to be a blessing to all whom you serve or who work for you. When one's work is not aligned with right livelihood, it will have far-reaching karmic consequences. We cannot live outside the law of right livelihood and long prosper. We may continue to make money, but we will not prosper in the truest sense of the word. There is a function God has for each of us, and when we are living our holy function, we tremendously alleviate our suffering and are bringing about happiness in our lives and into the lives of all we touch. Now, I know that was a long passage. That's one of the advantages of being on video. You can rewatch this later and hear it again. But I want to just touch on a couple of the points here. Living consciously through one's life work is to be a blessing to all whom you serve or who work for you. We cannot live outside the law of right livelihood and long prosper. And this part about there is a function God has for each of us. And I just wanted to comment that, can you see the parallels between the Christian teaching that I read in 1 Corinthians and the Buddhist teaching of right livelihood? They have the commonality of, as we use our gifts and we receive our gifts and we put them into action, we are a blessing to ourselves and to the world. We can alleviate suffering, going back to the whole idea about NO poverty, because when we are ready to alleviate suffering by putting our spiritual gifts into action, it is a byproduct of that. We can eliminate poverty as a byproduct of putting our spiritual gifts into action. And so we can ask ourselves, what is it that I can do? Well, I want to say that if you are not joyful in whatever it is that you are doing right now, shift it. Ask, what it is do I need to do in order to be joyful in what I'm doing? Or is it time for me to make a change into something else? When we have our spiritual gifts, we want to put them in action through our right livelihood. And livelihood isn't limited to the idea of just a job, because you may be retired. You may be retired, you may not be working. So livelihood, we can apply it to how we are being. We can apply it to our lives. This time that we have been in of the COVID experience has actually been a time of great innovation, hence what we're doing right here and now, because those of you who are part of our community know we were not streaming in any way, shape, or form before all of this. So that's one example of how innovation has come about as a result of the COVID experience that we've been in. Creativity is showing up in so many ways, not only in our community, but across the world. Eric Butterworth, I want to give you another one of the Eric Butterworths. He says, people can begin with what they have and do what they can right where they are. Even if what they have is a lot of sheer necessity. Sheer necessity. Brene Brown has what she calls FFT. Now, I cannot say in church the first F, so I'll just leave that up to your imagination, but the next one is first time. First, and then the T is time. So she's saying that there's a lot of first time going on right now, and you, along with many others, may be suffering from a little bit of FFT fatigue, like so many first time things that we're having to do. And I just want to encourage you to kind of just take a breath and remember that we are going to get through this. We are getting through it, and we can look to it as this sheer necessity that is pushing us, because sometimes that's the way Spirit works, is there's sort of like this hand on your back, that is pushing you toward it. Tama Keeves, who is a very just a delightful person and a life coach, she says, if you're this successful doing work you don't love, what could you do with work you do love? I mean, that quote to me just encapsulates it. If you are this successful doing work you don't love, what could you do with work you do love? Think about that. It's a powerful thought. So how do we activate it? Okay, so we know we've got a sense of our spiritual gifts. We know that we want to put them in action through the right livelihood, being involved in something that's bringing us joy, a place where we do feel called to be. Maybe it is out of sheer necessity, but a place where we are being called to be. And so we've got an idea. How do we activate it? First thing I would say is surround yourself with people who will give you encouraging words. Okay? Stay away from the naysayers. Be around people who will give you encouraging words. Last year, Netflix had a docuseries called Cheer. It was about a college located in a small town in Texas that is actually the recipient of the most number of national championship awards in the cheerleading world. Everyone is part of the team, whether they are on mat, meaning they're actually participating in the routine that's being done, or whether they're on the sidelines. And the people who are on the sidelines, they're the ones that are supposed to be doing what's called mat talk. Okay, mat talk. There was one kid who was like the best at mat talk. This was his gift, aside from what he could do in the cheerleading itself, the routines. But Jerry was like the king of mat talk. Well, when I was on my sabbatical, part of it included a walking pilgrimage from San Diego to Santa Barbara. Day two was the single longest continuous mileage that I was walking. Okay, so that day was actually a 12-mile day. Now, my fella had been watching this series. We watched it together, and I was really tired, and you know how sometimes things sound like a really good idea, but then when you go to do it, you're just like, oh my God, what was I thinking? And I had a little bit of that going on because I've got a backpack, which by backpack standards was fairly light, but it's still 15 pounds, that I'm carrying on my back. And I was really tired, I was coming to the end of the day, and I got on the phone and I called my fella and I was like, I need some mat talk. And he knew exactly what I was saying. He knew exactly what it was. I said, honey, I need some mat talk. And oh my God, he just started with the encouraging words, and lifted my spirits. And I made it to my destination. I was able to make it to my destination even though the last half mile was uphill. I tell you, I turned the corner. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. But mat talk. So encouraging words. Surround yourself with people who will give you encouraging words, who are going to remind you of this truth of who you are. Next, take one small step toward what it is that you feel called to do. Take one small step toward it. Every decision that you make is either going to bring you closer to or farther away from what it is that you say that you want. So take one step closer toward what it is that you want. Do a random act of kindness. A random act of kindness. We never know how that random act of kindness is going to come back to us because there is no lack in the universe and everything moves around. Talk to strangers. You're an adult now, okay? You can talk to strangers. Again, you never know where a conversation's going to lead. I'll share another story with you. Came up in our prayer chaplain meeting this week. One of our prayer chaplains thought they were calling a congregant. It turned out it was a wrong number. She left a message. It turned out it was a wrong number. When she called back the next time, the person who has that phone said, listen, you're not reaching the person that you were trying to reach, but I so love your prayer message. Would you still call me? And so she is. She's still calling this woman, and sharing prayers with her each month. You just, like I said, you just never know, okay? So talk to strangers and bless, okay? Bless. Bless it all. Give thanks in all things. Bless in all things. It doesn't mean bless for, because some stuff we're not happy about. But give thanks, bless in it, because in it is a blessing. All right? Even though we may not be experiencing it in that moment. So surround yourself with people with encouraging words. Take one small step toward what it is that you feel called to do. Have a random act of kindness or more than one. Talk to strangers. Trust that voice when you hear it that says, do this, even if it doesn't make sense. Talk to strangers and bless. These are all ways that we can activate the spiritual gifts we have within us. And as we do that, we are a blessing to the world. I want to close this morning with a bit of a meditative reading. And so let my words be your words. Okay? Let my words be your words. As you breathe into this, just take a nice deep breath. And again, just get a little more settled into where you are. And let my words be your words. I conceive what is true in being, and I carry it out in thought, word, and act. I am not going to be led astray. Old ideas are error, and they are nothing. I trust omnipotence. I refuse to be anxious about tomorrow or even the next minute. I live and love in integrity with the highest good for myself and others. I am not fearful of poverty. I am obliged to no one. Spirit has poured out all resources. I am a mighty channel of abundance. Prayer, power, prosperity, in that order. Amen. And this is the time in our service where we share of our gifts and tithes and offerings. And so I invite you to hold your gift in your hand. And we'll also put it in the chat box, the offertory statement that we use. God is the source of my overflowing supply, and I am grateful. And let me just take a moment to say thank you to everyone who contributes and supports this ministry, whether you support us by mailing us your checks, and thank you for those of you who have, whether you are supporting us online, you can contribute through our website, unityofpasadena.org. We have a donate button there. And so just know that we are joining you in affirming the truth that we know that once again, God is the source of my overflowing supply, and I am grateful. And now we have a gift from Daniel Namod. Unjaded is the name of this tune.
Well, I used to dream out loud. Just being human made me proud. Now I throw my hands up in the air from disillusion and despair. My heart has taken such abuse. I've used my hurt as my excuse. It's like all hope has disappeared behind the shadow of my fear. And I wonder why they say that aging thins the skin. Then I remember I am only one, but I am not alone. I don't need to do everything, no. I can right one wrong, I can sing one song. I don't need to do everything. It's time to dive back in, yeah. It's time to live again. I am unjaded. Oh, what if you have to fall to grow? I've fallen hard enough to know. So what if life's not fair? Doesn't mean that
And so, yes, friends, Unjaded by Daniel Nahmod, we can jump in and remember that truth. So again, welcome to Unity Pasadena. Those of you who are not familiar with us, please check out our website. You can learn more about who we are as a community, and also at our world headquarters, unity.org, which will tell you more about Unity as a movement. And as we do when we come together in person, we close with our prayer for protection, and we'll put that into the chat box as well for those of you who may not be aware of it. And together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever I am, God is. Wherever God is, I am, and all is well. Please join us for our virtual hospitality, which begins at 11:45. There's a Facebook event where you can locate the link there. You can also find it on the calendar of our website. Blessings to you and have a great week. Bye.